off top. Miami is the only American city known to be founded by a woman named Julia Tuttle. Play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
What up, Charlie? How you like those Miami facts for you? That's where I am right now. That's why I have Miami facts. I'm down near the statue that reminds people that this city was founded by a woman who convinced the railroad to come here. And now we have this big, I was going to say wonderful, but it's certainly not the word. It's not bad, but it's not wonderful. It's special. Big, special city. At the
I'm a Miami guy. I love Miami. It's great. Wonderful.
Yeah, wonderful is not the word. You can call it wonderful if you want to.
Exciting?
Exciting is better. Yeah, wonderful feels, I guess maybe it's just me adding some like wholesomeness to the word wonderful. When I hear wonderful, I feel like something soft and cuddly.
I was about to say, are you picturing like a very warm cottage life when you say wonderful?
This is not wonderful. It's positive overall, but it's not wonderful. It's just like,
it might be too austere to be wonderful too. You're in like a modern city of glass that's going to be underwater in 20 years.
In 20 years, you're giving them a lot longer than I think I would have given them, but cool. It is hot as hell down here, and it's thick as hell down here too. Like very Louisiana in the humidity.
It is thick.
It's so thick. so
very thick.
My first NFL game was in Miami, and I didn't start, but I was playing by the fourth quarter because all the corners had cramps. Everybody passed out in 17, and we lost on the last second play. That was fun. Anyway, speaking of football, we're going to get to some very exciting football takes from both of us. You've promised some good storyline predictions for us. We're going to get to some Djokovic talk because you, I think, are going to argue that he is the greatest of all time across all sports. Is that true? That's an easy argument for me to win. It's a layup.
We'll get to it. No spoilers. Don't put takes in my mouth.
Okay, I'll try not to. But
I'm gonna have all of your troll followers tweeting me, being like, "How dare you putting Djokovic over X, Y, and Z?"
I mean, Jordan, Brady, Bill Russell, Babe Ruth. Actually, Barry Bonds, probably the greatest baseball player ever. I don't care about.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We can go down that. We could do a whole podcast on Barry Bonds.
Give me Barry Bonds for sure.
I mean, do you know how comical it was that steroids or not, he was on base 6 out of 10 times in a major league season?
It's absurd.
It was essentially impossible to get him out if he threw him. If he stood up to the plate, he was going to end up, most likely, if you just did it by OPS, he's probably going to end up on second base. And that's if you're lucky, because if you gave him any sort of, I mean, God forbid you gave him a dick high fastball because that thing's going 500 feet and it's looking like you hit it with like a rocket launcher.
Remember when, I mean, Tiger Woods is in this conversation also, even if but remember when people used to say like hitting a baseball was the hardest thing to do in all the sports? Barry Bonds made it seem like it was every time.
It is.
I don't even love baseball like that, but I recognize that there was something different about him.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's spectacular. It's like there's one of the Barry Bonds things I think is fascinating is that like he was essentially Mickey Mantle and he was not treated with that reverence because he was such a big asshole and he was so off-putting to people this guy got kicked off of his college team at Arizona State. And then they held a vote before the College World Series. And they were like, guys, is the whole team going to vote Barry Bonds like the best player of all time? We're going to vote him off the team. And the majority of the team voted him off the team. And the coach was like, not unanimous. Barry's back. Let's go to Omaha.
That's a great story. I mean, that's a perfect, I guess, person to be talking about right now. I guess somewhat because, I mean, Joker, we have a similar situation where he's incredibly good, but it's not because he's an asshole, but because he's just kind of dry and doesn't care. His playing style is not all that explosive, and I feel like
we're talking Jokic, not Djokovic now, right?
I said Joker.
Okay.
I meant
Jokic. No, you said Joker, but they're both Serbians named Joker, so I was like, okay. I needed to clarify quickly.
The center for the Nuggets. his
who we're
personality.
assuming are NBA champions by the time you listen to this.
We're recording this on Monday. I'm not assuming. I think the Heat gonna extend this thing. I'm in Miami. Heat culture. I bought in. They're gonna extend this thing one more game. They're gonna come back, give us another game, right? Maybe. No.
Sure.
We'll
That's
see.
optimistic.
Well, I mean, they've proven us wrong so many other times. I decided I want to be on the side of hope this time, not on the side of evidence.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get to these football takes because we're getting ready for football season. It's coming. That's what we're going to likely be spending the rest of the summer talking about after the Heat win the championship in 7 games. So I do want to hand it over to you because you promised some good football predictions for me to react to. What do you got?
Yeah. So
hold on. Before you go, let's remind the listeners that last year I picked the Final 4. I was right. I picked the Final 2. I was right. And I picked the champion all in August before the season started. So I am the perfect arbiter for predictions. Go right ahead, sir.
So these aren't necessarily predictions as much as they are storylines, I think, that we are going to talk about. Like I can see each one of these being a lower third on whether it's like First Take or Get Up, and you have like an exasperated Greeny talking about one of these things in October. So I'm going to go with one that I think can be broken down into 3 subtopics, but I think it's going to tickle your fancy off the top. And that is, this is the year we're going to get answers on the NFL race war topics. And those 3 topics are Josh Allen. I think people are going to turn on Josh Allen. 2, I think there's more pressure. There's more pressure on Lamar Jackson than there ever has been in his career, because if he plays 5 good games, then stinks again. And
you know what I like.
Part 3 of that, Eric Bieniemy. Because we're going to know if it was just Patrick Mahomes or Andy Reid, because if he cooks with Sam Howell, Ron Rivera, and the Washington Commanders, we are going to be calling him the second coming. And he will not just get interviews next offseason if that is the case.
There's no way, Eric.
So that's my take. Storylines. Those 3 storylines.
Those are great storylines, and you are right up my alley in things that I find incredibly interesting. No one's turning on Josh Allen. You're wrong about that. I think the pressure.
If he's short in the playoffs for another year, you don't think there's going to be a storyline being like, why did we anoint this guy a Hall of Famer? He's who we thought he was the whole time.
Nope. I don't see. I mean, assuming he still has a good, productive regular season. And I mean, if he gets knocked out I just don't see it being blamed on him, because so much of their success is attributed to him. It's honestly the treatment that Lamar Jackson probably deserves, but doesn't get, is like,
wonder why.
Yeah, we get there and it's like, well, Lamar can't get him past this round, or Lamar can't win a playoff game. Like, they're only here because Lamar Jackson. Lamar's the perfect example, because they were destined to miss the playoffs until he took over in his rookie year and won 6 in a row. They got into the playoffs and then they lost, and then he's MVP, and they get in the playoffs and they lose. They finally advanced in the playoffs, but it still wasn't enough. And then last year he didn't even play in a playoff game. So it's hard to. We put players on these timelines, and if you don't reach the benchmarks as when you're supposed to, the tradition is to then blame you. But football is so complicated, I think, that you can find ways to excuse away the shortcomings of the players that you like for a period of time. And because Josh Allen lost that game to the Chiefs, that 13-second game to the Chiefs a few years ago, we kind of counted that. He had the best postseason that year. Was that 2 seasons ago? He had the best postseason. We left that postseason thinking more highly of him than we did of anybody else, even in a loss, because of what he did. So I think that got him some level of credibility that I think is going to take more than a couple seasons to lose. And it does matter how you lose. In the Lamar Jackson losses, the offense didn't put up numbers. So I think people were predisposed, ready to blame Lamar Jackson, and then they didn't put up numbers, whether it's because Greg Roman's offense was a little bit congested, his scheme was a little congested, or they didn't have big-time playmakers on the outside. There are lots of things you could point to and excuse Lamar Jackson, but the fact of the matter is he's the quarterback on the team that couldn't score enough points to win in the big moment. That has never been, or at least the last couple seasons. That wasn't the criticism of Josh Allen. So I think what it really matters how he exits the playoffs, and maybe he doesn't exit the play. If he gets to the Super Bowl, then I think that's enough. People will still consider him among the best and still say he's on the rise. It'll be interesting to see what he does in the regular season, though, because I think we talk about him as if he is up there with Patrick Mahomes, but he hasn't had. He can play as well as Patrick Mahomes at times, but Patrick Mahomes has done it. Now, with last season, he's even done it without a true number one receiver, but he's done it year after year after year after year. And then you add this last season without his number one receiving threat, and I'm including Travis Kelce in that, without the most dangerous man in the NFL. It's hard to like punch any holes in what Patrick Mahomes has done in 2 Super Bowls, obviously. All the comebacks. Josh Allen hasn't put up the numbers or had the success to be in the same conversation, but I think he certainly gets a pass from a lot of guys. So I think you're wrong. I think what matters is how he exits. If he throws a bunch of turnovers, then I think if he has a bad regular season or a mediocre regular season and then has 2 interceptions and a loss in the playoffs, then we'll talk about him. If he throws for 350 and 2 touchdowns and they lose in the playoffs, I don't know, 35-32, we're still going to talk about him the way that we have. It's not going to be like it's his fault. You disagree?
No, I'm starting to see the headlines now on First Take. Josh Allen has a couple slumping weeks. We're like mid-November, and it's like there's a First Take graphic where they've put Josh Allen on a turkey, and they're debating if they were right. And Stephen A is debating, being like, I guess all the draft prognosticators were right the entire time. You can't see that happening. You can't see anyone turning on Josh Allen if he doesn't take a leap this year. And I know he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for a couple of years, but with that, there become expectations of when we want that person to start winning. You don't think he's starting to reach the point where it's sort of get off the pot time?
Yeah, but I guess I kind of feel like he's met the expectations. Last year was the first year.
Surpassed him. Yeah.
He surpassed
You're being so logical here.
Yeah, I think you're right. The problem is we have a lot of days to fill and a lot of conversations to have. Once the season starts, somebody is going to say that Josh Allen has not reached expectations. But I'm looking back at his career now. So his rookie year, he had a 49 QBR. Then the next year, 49 QBR again. Just so you know, that's below average. That's not good. Then his third year was when he went 76. Last year, then the next year he goes 66. Then last year is 71. Those are all very good. That's around the top of the league as far as QBR is concerned. So I think he has a track record, and they've been winning. He has a track record that suggests that he's a little bit safe. It does matter if it just comes down to his playoff performance. And you tied this to the Lamar Jackson and Eric Bieniemy. You really front-loaded this. These are interesting
I got a bunch more.
Really? All right, so I'll have to go faster. So Lamar Jackson.
No, take your time. I'll weed out the bad ones.
One of my projections was Lamar Jackson. We're going to see high-level Lamar Jackson again, MVP level Lamar Jackson again. I do believe that the new the new offense that is going to incorporate a lot more wide formations is to his advantage. A lot more explosive playmakers that you can't cover in man coverage. Been over this with Mina on her podcast a couple of times. We're both very excited about what the Ravens can do this season. In part because the danger of what the Ravens are doing, or what Lamar Jackson brings, is every play is a play action with his running ability. Even if they don't do like a play action handoff, him having the ball suggests that you got to be ready to stop the run. And I always hated that they kept everyone in tight and they used big tight ends and didn't have any deep threat, scary receivers out there, at least healthy and consistent, because what you want to do in football is create dilemmas for the defense. And if the dilemma is, all right, you load the box to stop Lamar Jackson. All right, we're going to make you pay with a 10-yard pass to Mark Andrews. And the defense isn't scared. They line up and do it again. They assume they're going to get a sack at some point or cause a fumble at some point, or you're going to turn it over at some point. If the dilemma is you load up the box to stop Lamar Jackson as a running threat, or Rashard Bateman goes over the top, or Odell Beckham runs through your defense, or Zay Flowers gets your third corner in isolation, like that's scary. That's a decision that you actually have to make. and the most success that people had against Lamar Jackson, like the book on Lamar Jackson, so much that there is one to stop him, is to be aggressive and blitz him. Again, aggressive and blitz him, you have to have a trade-off. So if you're going to blitz, you weaken your coverage. If you weaken your coverage against their current or their previous receiver set, you're not that scared that Isaiah Likely is going to cook you. He's a good tight end, but I mean, you line up and you play man coverage with a safety or even a linebacker on Andrews and Likely, and you feel okay. But right now, I don't know what shape Odell Beckham is in, but assuming has something left in the tank, you're looking at zero coverage against Odell Beckham on one side, Rashad Bateman on the other side, and we'll see what Flowers turns out to be. But he didn't lose his speed and quickness between college and now. Maybe he doesn't turn out to be a true number one, but I think he's still going to be a hard matchup for a third corner on any team. So it's like a scary proposition. And then we haven't even gotten to the fact that suggests you do cover them all pretty well. And you still got Lamar Jackson to deal with if he tucks it and runs, or if they run design runs with him. So I think this kind of rolls into one of the predictions that I wanted to make is I think the Ravens are the biggest threat to the Chiefs, and I could see them beating the Chiefs. Out of any team in the AFC right now, if I had to pick someone not named Kansas City to win the AFC, I think it's the Ravens, including the Bengals, as the Bengals have lost some bodies on defense. The Ravens defense is getting better as the season has gone along, and they don't have any reason to believe that they're going to get any worse. They lost Calais Campbell as their biggest loss, I think. But, I mean, Roquan Smith turned their defense around, and he did it mid-season. Now he's got a full offseason. And Kyle Hamilton, the full offseason after his rookie year to get better. And he was one of the better safeties in football last year. He plays a lot of different positions, but he was really good last year. So adding him, I think there's some questions about the depth at cornerback, but they still have one of the best corner in Humphrey, one of the best corners in football. So I really like this team, and they're well coached. They don't make mistakes. They're smart. They're analytical. Good culture. Like, it's all the things that you want from a team. So I'd be worried about them. And the last one, Bieniemy. So what are you predicting for Bieniemy? Because you didn't really predict anything, or you refused to make a prediction. You said that I guess we'll be able to determine whether he deserves a job or he was just a product of the Andy Reid and
I think
Patrick Mahomes situation.
I think that I was so mealy mouthed with all of this. I think that my storyline prediction was just that we're going to get answers on all three of these topics, which have sort of been the hot button topics and talking points in NFL circles for like the last few years, because the Bieniemy thing, and I think it was fascinating, was that, it was completely unfair. He didn't get head coaching jobs, but I think it was also, for a normal football fan, it is really hard to parse how good of an offensive coordinator someone is when they have, maybe the greatest quarterback of all time and Andy Reid and Tyreek Hill and Travis. It's just really hard for an average fan to know who's responsible for what. And so putting him in a vastly different situation where it's Sam Howell or Jacoby Brissett playing quarterback, I think we get a lot more answers, fair or not. And I do think that will be a storyline that will be talked about, because if they're good 6 weeks into the season, that is going to be an A1 headline on a lot of ESPN shows.
Yeah, I think we'll find out whether, because I think an offensive mind as good as Andy Reid is going to get something out of Sam Howell. It's going to get something out of everybody. He will get you the best version of this quarterback. If Eric Bieniemy turns Sam Howell into an average quarterback, even slightly below average quarterback, I think most of us will be like, all right, he's pretty good. And that's not fair to Sam Howell. Maybe Sam Howell is great, but I think the belief is Sam Howell is going to be really dependent on the scheme. He's not going to break out of the scheme and outplay the expectations. The idea of, I'm in a weird place, I guess, when we talk about Eric Bieniemy being a head coach, because I'm not naive enough to think race doesn't play some factor in it. But I find it really hard to believe that it is the predominant factor in why he hasn't gotten a job yet, based on the success that he's had combined with the fact that other Black coaches have gotten jobs. If you were an organization that was comfortable with hiring a Black coach, which I think there are plenty of organizations that are not, and some organizations that are comfortable with hiring a Black coach only in a situation when they expect them to lose. Like when they are in rebuild mode, they would like to hand out the job to the Black coach then. And then when they believe their roster is ready, then they transition back to someone that they're more comfortable with. But I guess I can't, not that I've done in-depth reporting, but I've talked to people around the league and no one has given a good, solid answer, which is why I think we all end up back on it's because he's Black. But no one's given a solid answer for why he hasn't gotten a job, especially when you see people from the Andy Reid coaching tree get jobs with much less success on a shorter time period, with even more help than Eric Bieniemy was afforded. So none of it makes sense, but I guess this is a real dead fish I'm throwing in your lap right now because there's really no way for you to answer this, but I don't know what it is. I'm in DC, so I guess I should be rooting for the Commanders, but I never really have. But this year, I guess I'm kind of just rooting for Andy Reid, and I think most of us are, right?
For Bieniemy.
I mean, I'm sorry, not Bieniemy,
yeah.
for Bieniemy. Yeah, I mean, Andy Reid doesn't need anybody.
We're always rooting for Andy Reid too. It is you have to have a postseason cheeseburger.
2-time Super Bowl champ, and currently has the best quarterback in football, saying that he is willing to take team-friendly deals. Andy Reid don't need us to root for him, but Eric Bieniemy, like I want him to succeed, right? Don't we all kind of want him to have success?
I think everyone does. At least everyone around here. And I think, we're going from Scott Turner to Eric Bieniemy, and the Commanders have good skill position guys. Dotson and McLaurin. Dotson was great before I think he injured his hamstring last year. It was sort of on and off before that. And Howell is someone who I think a lot of people locally think might not actually be terrible. So yeah, everyone is rooting for Bieniemy. I think there's a prevailing thought here that he's more or less the coach in waiting, and that if things go sour with Rivera in the first half of the season, that this is essentially getting a head coaching job anyway.
What are the expectations in that division? So that division was the best division in football. The Commanders were 8-8 last year, right?
Yeah, I mean, expectations.
They were 8-1 last year, and they were last place, which is crazy that you could be 500 in last place. But I don't think anyone expects them to be better than the Cowboys or the Eagles, right? So the expectation is to knock off the Giants.
Your hope is for third place in that division, and that's just the state of play with the talent in that division. And like the Cowboys still have an awesome roster, and that's not just Howie Roseman. The only way the Eagles aren't the best team in that division is like if we look up and it's like Jalen Hurts sprained his knee in week 4 and he's not back until week 10, which is not a fun thing to talk about. But that's the path for them not to win the division.
I mean, I think the Cowboys have a legitimate chance to win the division even without injury. The Cowboys are competitive. I think the Eagles are more talented. You don't think the Cowboys are? I mean, the thing about football is while the Eagles have more talent, the game is so much like, I guess this doesn't help the argument, but like coaching, there are so many other variables. I think when you're close as far as talent is concerned, that's good enough, and I think the Cowboys are close. I guess the big advantage right now would be quarterback goes to the Eagles, because before last season started, I would have said quarterback edge goes to the Cowboys, and that makes up the difference. But if they have more talent and better coaching, or at least a push at the coaching and a better quarterback, I guess you should expect the Eagles to win.
And I actually think the biggest encouraging thing with the Eagles is Jalen Hurts is still like ascending. Like he took such a leap last year, and it's obviously not going to be exponential like that year to year. But if there's small linear jumps of him improving and expanding his game, it's like that offense who really knows what the ceiling for it is going to be.
NFC East is the division that nobody has won back-to-back in like 15 years, right?
Yeah.
Is that the case? Time. So, I mean, just going with the odds, we got to go Cowboys this year. Maybe the Giants will win it. That'll be fun.
So you want a couple more storylines?
Saquon Barkley. Yeah, give me some more storylines.
This is a two-parter.
Okay.
This is a two-parter. So the first part, and this is still slightly quarterback related. We'll go to other parts of it first. First one. The Jets are going to regret the Aaron Rodgers trade by Thanksgiving. And that's a very specific timeline. And this is, I was really jealous of Bill Barnwell's take that the Jets are going to finish last in the AFC East. And I was like, how can I take this? And how can I Stephen A-ify it? And I was like, let's do some schedule watching. Because I want to read to you the Jets schedule until November 24th, which, by the way, the Friday after Thanksgiving, now there's football. So that's going to be great. But
Black
first
Friday.
game of the season. Yeah. First game of the season. They got the Bills. Let's call them 0-1.
Okay.
They got the Cowboys. Let's call them 0-2. They got the Patriots 1-2. They got the Jets 1-3. They got the Broncos.
They got the Giants.
Sorry, they got the Chiefs.
Oh, the Chiefs.
Yeah.
That's an L.
Yeah. They've got the Broncos.
That could be a loss.
Yeah.
Broncos are still very talented. It depends on whether Sean Payton can get the quarterback situation playing well. The Broncos are not good.
Don't spoil the second part of my take.
My bad.
Okay, so then they got the Eagles. It could be 1-5.
Goodness.
Then they got the Giants. Who knows what Daniel Jones will be at the second year of Dayball. Let's call it 2-5. Chargers 3-5. And then they got the Raiders 4-5. Bills 4-6, and then the Dolphins on that game. They could be 4-7.
Gracious. Yeah, that's a distinct possibility. Their strength of schedule. What is it? I'm looking
Sixth hardest schedule in the NFL, but it's really front loaded. And the second part of that take is with the Russell Wilson of it all. And I think we're going to have a comeback year with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. We'll probably know within the first month, because if he's bad in that first month with Sean Payton, they'll bench him. But my storyline here is going to be the Broncos got it right, trading for Russell Wilson and not Aaron Rodgers when the Jets start that way, and we all eat some crow. Could you see that storyline being on a TV show? Did you see it week 8, like a 6-2 Broncos team?
All right. Well, I appreciate that you coming with the hot takes, because then it allows me to be reasonable. That requires two things to happen. The Jets got to stink and the Broncos got to be good. And both Aaron Rodgers has to play poorly and Russell Wilson has to play well. That's a hard. I mean, I feel like one of those things is going to happen. Saying both of those things are going to happen is really hard for me to wrap my head around. It kind of feels like the Jets situation is, but they'll figure it out. Like you said, it's front loaded schedule. They'll be better by the end of it. They'll make the playoffs and maybe win a couple playoff games. And then we'll all look back on it like it just was some growing pains. They had to get comfortable with each other and Aaron Rodgers. What if they are undefeated by that point? Then what? And we just go ahead and send the Lombardi to New York or New Jersey, wherever their practice facility is.
Yeah. I mean, if they're 11-0, like,
you haven't even considered the fact that they could be good and they could beat everybody. And
no, they could definitely be good. But if they were undefeated at that point, they've beaten the Chiefs and the Bills twice. I don't know. I'm wearing flip-flops. I'll eat one of them on this podcast.
Yeah, I like that, though. Do you think, are you a believer in Aaron Rodgers to the Jets?
Yeah. I mean, I think the Jets were pretty good last year. I mean, I honestly, you know what? I shouldn't answer that. I have no clue how good Aaron Rodgers is going to be, because I didn't think the Green Bay situation was that bad. And I think, undebatable last year. And maybe even on this podcast, we talked about it like 20 times. And I was sort of manic with them. I was like, we got to stop talking about the Packers. But then they would do one good thing. And I'd be like, I'm back in. This team is great. Christian Watson is such a freak. So I have no idea what to expect from Aaron Rodgers. If he's going to be like the 2-time MVP guy or the guy from last year, because he was legitimately not very good last year. And I think we sort of wrote it off based on his unhappiness with the situation. But he's also old.
That's pretty old. Yeah, and he's not Tom Brady in that he is like considered a pocket passer, but he's always relied on his athleticism somewhat. And that's going to fade and injuries are more likely. Yeah. Yeah, it's never as simple as we think it is. Like just add a quarterback doesn't always go as smoothly as it did for the Rams and for the Bucs when Tom Brady got their thing. And the Bucs Tom Brady situation, like Brady wasn't good in that playoff stretch that they won a Super Bowl. It's something that we don't often point out is that defense got them to, and also that defense kind of won them that Super Bowl. Brady was good during the regular season, but he didn't provide much of that Brady magic in the playoffs. But it all could be different for Aaron Rodgers. Who's better, Aaron Rodgers or Messi, who has more impact on their team? Because isn't Inter Miami pretty terrible?
I have no. I'm not even going to pretend to know. I'm not even going to pretend to know. I
Nobody
mean,
knows. You can pretend it. Anyone who's listening to this is not following Inter Miami. It's hard to find the games. You got to like watch it on Apple TV. But now we're all going to have to get Apple TV Sports or whatever so we can watch Messi, right? Is it going to change your sports watching habits?
No.
No, you're not going to watch any Messi?
No. I mean, I think I have Apple TV, so the software's there, so I'll probably watch a little bit of it, but like, no. I mean, I remember watching the first game that Zlatan was with the Galaxy, and obviously Zlatan's not the greatest soccer player of all time.
And he was on the downside of his career.
Yeah. I mean, Messi is also he's on the tail end of his greatness, even though, obviously
but he just won the World Cup.
The best player in the world. He's probably still the best player in the world.
A little different.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to be like subscribing and watching every Inter Miami game.
You do watch,
just to be honest.
Speaking of sports that are outside of our like top 2 in this country, you do watch a lot of tennis, and our boy Alcaraz was putting up a fight against Nadal and against Djokovic, and came up short. You were rooting for Alcaraz, right?
Oh yeah, I think everyone was rooting for Alcaraz, which actually, this is what I was texting you. I think is fascinating. So Alcaraz, for our listeners who don't know, he is 20-year-old tennis prodigy. He won the U.S. Open last year. He, coming into his match against Djokovic, was 35-3 on the season. Was playing in the French Open. After 2 sets, it was 1 set apiece. And Alcaraz is someone who sort of, I don't want to sound hyperbolic, but this is a genuine comparison I would make. Shot maker like Steph Curry, mover like Tyreek Hill. Sort of a freak athlete.
Don't want to sound hyperbolic. Don't want to sound hyperbolic, but he's somewhere between Tyreek Hill and Steph Curry. But you're saying you don't want to sound hyperbolic. You've seen... Yeah, he's a monster athlete.
I don't know how else to describe him.
I don't know tennis like you know tennis, but I watch him and I'm like, this guy could be good. Whatever ball you put in his hand when he was young, he would have been professional at that. He just is explosive as an athlete, and the hand-eye coordination also. Anybody who's ever tried to play tennis knows how difficult it is to hit some of those shots that they make look easy. So yeah, I kind of agree with you, but you did go a little overboard.
Irregardless, not a word, but still, irregardless, he had just made one of the all-time shot against Djokovic, sliding to the back of the court, taking his forehand. His entire body cramps up. It starts in the hands. It goes down his biceps. You can see him. He can't walk to the bench. And so Djokovic rolls over him after they're 2 hours in at this point, rolls it over him in the rest of the semifinal. There's a sort of disappointment that there's not a passing of the guard. And then Djokovic wins the French Open, wins his 23rd slam, passes Rafael Nadal. It's 3 ahead of Federer, ties Serena Williams. It's 1 behind Margaret Court. And this is fascinating to me because this goes with the Jokic stuff. This goes with something that we've talked about, is that this guy's 36 years old. He takes care of his body like Tom Brady. He's like a lunatic. Like, he stretches 3 hours a day. He's really pushed the boundaries of how robotic and great a tennis player can be. And he essentially will have every single statistical advantage over everyone who's ever played tennis. And he's done so in an era against 2 other Michael Jordans in Federer and Nadal. And now he's doing it against this upstart player who we all believe can be like sort of generational. And the thing I find interesting about this is he's so unlikable in so many ways, just with the fact that his playing style is very dry and robotic. Wherever you fall on the vaccine stuff, wherever you fall on him not being sort of graceful like Nadal and Federer, no one cares that this guy's 36 years old. He's probably the best old athlete of all time in any sport. That was my take. It wasn't that he's the best athlete. I'm a Jordan guy. But past the age of 30, he's won 11 Grand Slams. He's won every Masters series twice. He's won every Grand Slam tournament 3 times. And he's done so in this sport where he's playing 5-hour matches. He's beating people with endurance and physicality at a point when his knees should be dust at this point. His body should be dust, and he hasn't declined at all.
I want to disagree with you, but there's nowhere to hide in tennis. Like I feel
Yeah.
like the thing about Tom Brady and the thing about like LeBron James and other kind of great athletes, older athletes who are great in their older age, is they're in team sports, and you can hide them in ways, and you can find the things that they do well. Like we watch LeBron in his playoffs. He's still LeBron James, but he only is that LeBron James for certain stretches. And the same is true for Tom Brady. It's like he's still Tom Brady, but we don't see it happening except for like at the end of close games. Like, oh, there he is. Hello.
Right.
The defense plays really well. There's nothing you can really do. Again, if you've played tennis before, you can't well, I guess you can use like your shot making ability to reduce the athleticism that you have to demonstrate, but not at that level. Like, because Alcaraz or Nadal or Federer, any of those, I mean, anyone, they don't have to be one of those big names, can put the ball just about anywhere they want. You're going to have to run and get to it, and to find other ways, because he's diminished athletically, obviously, but to find other ways to still be dominant is incredibly impressive. But the knock against him, I guess, is what you would argue is the positive, is that he didn't like even separate himself in his era. Like as an older athlete, maybe, but you said he's competing against other Jordans. That's because other people were dominant in this stretch, just like he was dominant in this stretch, which is not something that you normally think about. You think about the greatest of all time. You think they might have rivals, but they're different rivals that they destroy. And Jordan is, I guess, the prototype that we all look at, and we saw how everyone jumped up. Clyde Drexler jumped up. Malone jumped up. Barkley jumped up. Everybody jumped up to get beat down by Jordan. And Djokovic could never really put any of these guys all the way away or separate himself in any like substantial way.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. I mean, I think I see that as like something that's pretty unique about this era of tennis, and like I don't think will ever be repeated in tennis, and maybe will in other sports. But by 2008, by the time there was the famous Wimbledon final with Nadal and Federer, I think Nadal at that point was 22 years old, and Federer I think was 26 or 27. They were widely recognized as the two greatest players of all time, which is very Jordan-like, where I think we knew a couple years in that there was a new sheriff in town. It wasn't Larry or Magic. And so they're the two greatest players of all time. And for that to essentially be taken from them by their massively less respected peer, that alone is really, really interesting. And for the majority of fans to just sort of be like, we still like the other guys better. Like, we know you're the best, but we still like the other guys better. They made us feel more on the inside.
Does style matter this much in every sport? Because as I'm thinking about it, like it definitely feels like it matters in basketball. I think the style matters a lot in basketball. The personality matters, the way that you're doing it. The further we get away from you as a player, I think it separates our memories. Because like, I guess Allen Iverson comes to mind as a guy whose his style of play and his personality off the court elevated him in a way in our memories. And I think it's important. Like the way that I'm explaining it makes it feels like I'm diminishing the style, but no, that matters. Like, this is entertainment property. It's something we talk about a lot around here, is that the entertainment value matters, and tying you to the game matters, and getting you to show up matters. I'd rather have Allen Iverson than a much more boring version of that performing. Is there a sport where it doesn't? Because like even in boxing, like people complain about Floyd Mayweather's greatness because it was boring and defensive. Like it's I guess an underappreciated but very impactful part is like when we have these GOAT debates, we always start flashing the numbers. But I don't know that it matters nearly as much as like how you do it, and if people attach themselves to you in a way broader than just your excellence.
I mean, I think it matters immensely. And I think, I think the secret sauce of some of these GOAT debates is that when you have the best player in an era also playing the most aesthetically pleasing style, it really moves people. Like, that's sort of the Michael Jordan paradigm. It wasn't just that he's the greatest player of all time. It's also that like no one looks cooler playing basketball than Michael Jordan. And that's one of the appealing things about the rise of the Warriors. It was like, you look at Steph Curry and you're like, holy, what is this? I've never seen this before. He's shooting from where? This is how their offensive plays. And I think you can say the same thing to tie it back to football on Mahomes, where like he plays such a more aesthetically pleasing style than Tom Brady, just picking you apart in a 2-minute drill, that even though the accomplishments don't match up, he's the best player of his era. That's more or less settled. There's still, a lot of work to be done, but he plays probably the most aesthetically pleasing style of quarterback we've ever seen. And he's like 26 years old. He's entering GOAT debates with Brady already. And that's like a huge part of it's because of style.
Well, that's why this podcast is so popular, because of all of my style, right, Charlie? Or is it your style?
It's true. It's your style. It's definitely not my style.
Either way, it's been fun. Thanks, Charlie. I'll be back in DC soon for our next recording.
He's so good!
How has Domonique been lately?
Bad or good?
Let's find out. This is Roses and Thorns.
All right, Roses and Thorns. Time for my favorite part with my favorite person, my wife, Ashley Foxworth. So it seems like we're getting progressively more formal in our attire, because last time...
has roses on it.
It does. Nice.
That's a coincidence.
No thorns. Last time we were on our way to a date. And so
that wasn't last time. I can't remember what we were wearing last time, but
the time before that we were on our way to a date.
Before that we were on our way to a date.
And now we're
But I was wearing a rock doing the butt t-shirt. So I mean, it's not like my date attire is formal, to be clear. Yeah.
But as I said, we're getting more formal. Next time it's black tie. I'm coming tuxedoed out. I got a purple tuxedo and a black tuxedo.
It looks like he got it. One time he had to do stuff at the ESPYs, and I really liked it. You looked great. Yeah. It was your night, babe. It wasn't.
The New York, the ESPYs in New York, that was my finest black tie event attire. I had a pink sport coat, a white shirt, gray pants. And
I do remember that. You didn't have to be as dressed up because it was like on the roof. It was more chill that year.
Of the seaport. We had a great time.
You did. I know. I was thinking so I think on here last week when he was talking about how I do things last minute, I was like, I loved that my friend invited me to a birthday dinner 2 months early. Like, even though, because it gave me time to clear my schedule to make it. It was in New York this weekend, or this past weekend. We're doing this on Friday. So you'll hear it on Tuesday. And after all that, I had to change my plans at the last minute right before the final RSVP date because stuff came up with our kids. And we have a funeral to go to. Right. And that just kind of bumped into the plan. So it's really, that's the main thing that changed it. But I would have let my kids, that was it. Because I would have let my kids just be like at home with no one to drive them places, a babysitter who didn't drive. But it was that we were trying to like have a lot of family who was going to be taking places at a funeral, and then we couldn't miss his championship flag football game. Or he couldn't miss it. I could have missed it, but I'm not going to. I'll be there.
It's against the team that he stole a megaphone from last time, right?
Oh, God.
And Avery has her last soccer game with the sisters.
And she missed the practice because I lazily read an email and thought it was canceled. So
they've been playing together since like kindergarten, right?
I mean, it was co-ed back then. Yeah. So, like, I feel like it was maybe like second or third.
So, yeah.
Maybe second grade, third grade.
She's finishing 6th grade now, and they've been the same team. They're going to break up because their school offers sports for the first time. And so it's going to be an emotional one.
I know. Apparently at the practice, they were all like crying. It was just bonding exercises. But so we're in DC, and because of the Canada wildfires, we had like a lot of smoke here the last couple of days. It's been rough. Today's finally better. And I shouldn't say it's been rough. It's obviously much worse in Canada. So sorry. But it's been different for us. We're not used to having that, and we weren't expecting it, right? And so all the kids' outdoor activities were canceled. But because it was the last practice, the coach was like, yeah, we'll just do like bonding activities. But I just saw the email, and it was email after email of cancellation. So I was like, cool, check done. That one's canceled. And then later another mom texted me like, hey, can you bring, my daughter home from practice? And I was like, oh my God, I definitely would if I was at practice pickup. Like if I knew there was a practice today. And so my daughter was like, thanks, Mom. She's had a lot of like preteen, like, thanks, Mom moments with me lately.
You guys,
it's where we are.
You guys do like the attitude back and forth where no one actually ever says anything. It's just like
it's real passive aggressive
eyes and sounds that like.
As I said last week, I can be very petty, and I'm like, you ain't going to out whatever me, little child. But all I'm doing is actually teaching her how to out whatever me. Like ultimately, I'm just making a much scarier version of myself, and I need to remember that. But anyway, so we are dressed up today, and I'm wearing a dress that has roses on it. That I'm scared to move in because
you might give people a peek. Might give people a little peek.
It's shorter than I realized when I got dressed this morning to go to my son's elementary school graduation in it. But if it's too short for here, it was too short for there. But you know what?
I offered you like when I walked in and you were getting dressed at like I don't know, 8:30 this morning, I said sexy. And that was me telling you, are you sure? And clearly you were sure.
I didn't get it. I texted my
So you think that if we're going to a graduation, your goal is to be sexy? So I guess that was my point.
I thought you were just like, I'm your wife. You think you say this nice stuff to me like that sometimes. Right. Other times,
I would have said. I guess that was my fault for being too tactful. Yeah. But if I'd have been blunt, then we'd have. Look, then I got some attitude.
And I would have surely worn it.
I know. I didn't care whether you wore it or not. It doesn't offend me either way. But I wanted to make sure that you knew that you are sexy on your way to a 4th grade graduation.
Mama's got to be fly too. Psych, I'm joking. So. The one whose graduation was is our middle child, and we have an older daughter who's 2+ years older than him. And so in her class particularly, because I was 26 when she was born, and they go to like a private school in DC where a lot of the people are like lawyers or doctors who've worked, before they've had their kids. Not everybody, of course, but I was definitely the youngest mom in Avery's grade, like by far. Like there was a mom or two in that class who like could have had me young.
That's true. It's not as joke. Like,
I mean, young-ish, not even that young, right? And they're lovely. And like, but at first I think I used to feel really self-conscious around them and I'm feel like the teenage mom here, even though I wasn't. I was 26 when she was born. But then I just leaned into it and I was like, I'm sorry, but I like booty shorts. And like at times my legs have actually looked nicer in them. I actually wore some the last couple of days. The second day, like at pickup time, you don't really have to get out of the car at pickup. But I was like, it's warm and this is what I want to wear. And also I think I have like an F this mentality now.
I mean, you always do. You do these things often where you like justify actions that you
one should take either way.
Yeah, that you would take either way. And I feel like maybe it's you, because you don't go around telling people this, but maybe it's you like trying to give them space to accept you, because I've never known you to care. And I know you care a little bit, but it's like, this is what I want to wear. This is what I want to say. This is what I want to do. And like, I recognize that because I'm not like that. I wish I were more like that, because the insecurity, whatever minor insecurities that you have are bigger for me amongst like these like fancy people and older people and like I'm conscious of the fact that I'm always the youngest and
well, with our youngest grade now, we're getting some competition. And I actually, even in Declan's grade, like some of the families that came later are like our age. And I'm just like, so you think you're the youngest? You think you're the one who can wear the shortest dresses? Watch me hike up my skirt.
See, that's exact point. I know you're not actually doing that, but that's the same point, because when you were the youngest person, it's like, well, I'm the youngest person, it's going to have to do it. And now that you are not the youngest person, you're like, I'm going to show them that they're not younger. It's the things that you want to do.
As I see the wrinkles in my face.
It's the things that you want to do, and you find some reason to act like it's because something else. Like, nope, it's just who you are.
It is. There's nothing else. Like, actually, initially I was going to wear a long dress today, like that you saw. I had the other one out, but it was cold this morning, and so it felt chilly. I know, it's bad because the long one was like sleeveless, and the back was like had this crisscross back.
Now you're bringing the weather in to justify
I know.
you wearing what you want to wear.
And I recognize now that it was like a poor decision, because like,
I've been in your closet. I
have a lot of dresses.
If you were cold,
and I had like 3 of them out.
If the response to being cold was getting something that was warmer, it was possible that you could have got something warmer. You did not. You got something younger.
This is long sleeve.
It's sexier.
I wouldn't say this is younger. I would say the other one looks younger. It was like ditzy floral and like a little cross back. That one definitely looked like younger and more fun. And honestly, it had the mermaid colors in it, so it matched. And so I kept like trying to push myself to just wear that anyway, but I was like, you should not wear something just because it has colors in it that complement Domonique's set. Like, you should dress appropriately. And you know what? This is what I ended up in.
There you go.
So
you look great and sexy. Not as
someone's
fly.
Mama's got to be. It's like other moms are there too. By the way, you know who I'm talking about. If
name names,
I'm not going to drop names.
You weren't the flyest person there.
Not at all.
Some of the kids.
Oh my God, he was so cute in a disco ball suit.
Oh, incredible with purple shoes. That was outstanding.
Yes, he's always fly.
Yeah.
Yes, and so now, our
all
kids
white,
had their.
Somebody had they P Diddy on. It was
hopefully that's your linebacker on your flag football team next year. We got to check the signups. Now that we had his graduation and the last day of school was yesterday, it's officially summer. And I'm excited. I can wear all the booty shorts. And honestly, I don't know if I can say this word on here, even though you should be able to. I don't even call my shorts booty shorts, because oftentimes they're actually a little bit longer in the back than they are in the front. So when I texted Steph the other day, I was like, I'm about to wear these shorts for the second day in a row to pick up. She was like, good. I text her everything. So it's so good to have a friend who like agrees with every dumb thought you have. Like when I'm mad at somebody, I'm like, this, you know what? And she's like, yeah, she's a, you know what? Like, and so then we like encourage each other, I think. And we're like, that to like say and do the things. But it's like, I know who to text when like I could text a reasonable person. Yeah, not that she's not reasonable. We're both very reasonable. But when I want to be, I'm like, let me text her because she's going to, even if she don't believe it, she's going to make me feel like I'm right. So thank you. And I think you know who you are too, Sapna.
She knows anyway. You don't have to.
And she also is who brought me my love of Jalen Hurts. Like, not that I didn't see him and know that he was beautiful, just to go back to Jalen.
Sapna be in my DMs asking about Jalen. Like, I don't know him like that, guys.
She's
like,
from Philly, and her sisters love the Eagles. And so like I knew who Jalen Hurts again because I was a fan of his back since Alabama.
Yes.
When he had the dreads.
You have never liked
playing for Nick Saban. I still saw that his face was beautiful.
You've never liked anybody with dreads.
And then Tua replaced him. Okay. He thinks he knows everyone I've liked. That is hilarious to me that he thinks he knows everyone I've liked. But we'll pretend. I've never liked anyone with dreads.
All the people that you point to, like I don't know.
Who else do I point to besides Jalen Hurts?
Which I guess is unacceptable to still like him.
Used to be beautiful back in the day.
It's unacceptable to like him
Who
now.
Did
but
I see that I thought looked like Trey Songz one day.
Use the microphone.
I saw someone who looked like Trey Songz today. I can't remember who. And I was like, wow, like back when I loved Trey Songz, I would have thought he was really attractive. I can't remember. But Jalen Hurts. So back to Jalen.
It's just not your look. There's dreads is not your look.
Okay, but I still recognize his face was beautiful.
Okay.
And then he left to go to one of the Oklahomas.
Only one.
Wasn't there State and a OU?
So there's only one Oklahoma. There's
Oklahoma State or Oklahoma University. They're the same
University
school.
of Oklahoma.
University of Oklahoma, not Oklahoma State.
They're not the same school.
Exactly. That's why I said one of the Oklahomas. I wasn't sure if it was State or University. He really thinks he knows what he's talking about all the time, y'all.
I'm not. I'm trying to help out.
He went to an Oklahoma college in Oklahoma.
They're rivals.
Okay, that's why. So why would you say there's only one when I'm saying?
Because there is only one.
There's one state.
Okay.
Oh, one of them is like a better school to go to for football.
Oklahoma.
Okay. Well, I don't know which one, but I know Jalen Hurts went there. And so I knew he was attractive and like he was playing for Philly, but she was always posting pictures of him being like, I really think he's beautiful. And I'm like, you know what? He's even wants the hair, and he's right. It was once he got a haircut. I was like, you're right. So I forgot how I started talking. Oh, because she is my friend who lets me be trifling and turns me on to Jalen. So thank you. We're also both married. So we don't actually want to be with Jalen.
I mean, you might. Knock yourself out. Give it a shot.
I don't. And he's happily in a relationship. It's just
you wouldn't be a home wrecker.
I would never be a home wrecker. I wouldn't wreck my own home. I wouldn't wreck his. We're going to keep all the homes together. But anyway, I'm sorry. That was a long tangent from something. Jalen just gets me.
My hair is growing a little bit now, and I just recognize and looking in the camera that I feel like I'm at my buddy length. And you didn't have my buddy the toy.
that male doll?
Yeah, it was like
I had girl
boy's
dolls,
doll. Yeah. They had a kid sister. You didn't have kid sister either.
I don't know. I had so many dolls.
All right. Well, you can Google it after the show. You can see that.
Okay.
Like,
so the
right
black
now.
My buddy had hair like yours?
I mean, there's only one my buddy as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. I'm picturing my buddy, the white one at least, looking like a Chucky doll, which I'm sure he didn't.
Yeah,
it did.
That's exactly what it
right?
Like.
Okay.
Yeah. I think my buddy came out before Child's Play.
So it was meant to be like a creepy doll that's me.
I think, my buddy was really just a wrestling dummy.
What that's what boys would do with him?
I mean, that's what me and my brother did with it.
Isn't he really small?
I mean, it's like probably like 2 feet, I guess. Probably like
that big.
this.
Oh, wow.
It was kind of big. It was like had a soft body, but like a hard plastic head. And like we got it for Christmas one year. And it's like, I don't know, what else do you do with it? Like, we don't take care of it. Like, what do you do?
You guys didn't want it. Like, you were gifted
no, we did want it.
Oh, okay.
Because it was my buddy. And
I had a lot of dolls, and let me tell you what I never once did. I never once used one as a wrestling dummy.
I don't know what else you're supposed to do with dolls.
I think there might be other things. You like set them up, you do imaginative
I'm
play,
pretty sure.
You practice caring for them.
I'm going to check the comments after this, but I'm sure any people who are my age who had my buddy, they did wrestling moves on it. They drop kicked it. They flipped it. What else do you do with my buddy? Like, I don't know what else you do with a doll.
Lose it. We got Declan just because we had Declan's our only boy and our middle child. So I used to take Avery to the American Girl store all the time. We lived in Boston, and we got him a he like one time we were there eating and Avery had her doll and he looked left out. So I got him a male doll that like looked like him. A week later, a month later, I have no idea what happened to that doll. He probably threw it out the window.
Yeah, I forgot.
When we lived there.
Summertime, Summer.
Yes. Okay, DJ Jazzy Jeff.
I stopped singing before they could sue us.
Oh, very smart, very smart. Yes, it's summer, and like it's so crazy that I get so excited for summer. Like during the ceremony, the principal would say like, "And kids, it's summertime," and so you fill up with joy. I fill up with joy like as much as the kids do, and it's so dumb that I do because like again, I've talked about my poor camp booking. Like I don't, and I just think unstructured time is really good for kids. Like and the research says that too. Thank you very much. Nice. And we're in a place where our kids can't have unstructured time because I, can be at home with them or I can go on, little day field trips with them or travel with them or whatever. But they drive me crazy in that time. But it's weird because I love summer. But like, why? Like the weeks they're in camp, we're still getting up just as early. I'm driving to even more places farther apart because they're all at these random camps.
It's
one week they're all at one camp.
It's the weather.
I know, but it's something about the unstructured time too. I don't know, but it's like the unstructured time is actually miserable because I'm just stuck with my kids more and having to like entertain them and keep them all happy. But I love summer, so I'm so happy that it's here.
Did you do a lot of camps when you were young? What did you like? Yeah, I imagine you do sports camps.
No, I never went.
What type of camps did you do?
Okay,
because you don't like the outdoors, you don't like sports. I don't know what other type of camps there are, and especially back then. Like now, I feel like there are a bunch of like other type of camps.
I hated outdoors. It was
like a fashion camp. Didn't Avery do like a fashion camp?
Yeah, she was so bored.
Yeah, and she's done a coding camp.
Like to do fashion activities all day, even if it's just a 1 week camp. Like, duh. And it was like graphic design, or not graphic design, but like fashion, but like designing on a computer. So it's not even like they're learning to sew. This year though, actually, she doesn't learn, but she chose to go back for sewing camp. But at least that's like actually like doing something besides just sitting on the computer and designing a t-shirt all week that they eventually, like a t-shirt is what they designed in the course of the week. And that camp was, I would say, the most expensive camp other than like a sleepaway camp that you could find. Like, and I was like, it was right down the street from her house. And I was like, what? I guess they needed all the computers and to pay the rent at the university. They were running out. So for me as a child, honestly, and I went to like some travel camps, like, it wasn't called Camp on the Go. My cousins used to always go to Camp on the Go, and I was a little bit jealous where like they would go to like, I think it was West between elementary school, and then they would get on buses and do all these cool field trips all summer. I went to one that was like that, but it was at like I went to Howard's Hospital's nursery school when I was little. And then when I was older and my little sister was still there in the camp, in the summer they would do a camp where like the older siblings could come back, but there was no room for us there. But it was like we would come back and be around for a little bit, then head out on those field trips. So I did ones like that. But my very favorite camp was actually at Beauvoir, St. Albans. I can't remember. Even though if you would ask my mom, she'd be like, how was that your favorite camp? Because apparently it was very expensive. And I would always ask to be picked up by my aunt, who was a professor. So she was off in the summer. And there were no cell phones. I would go to the office and be like, hey, me and Lauren are ready to come home now, because we had gotten through the part of the day we liked and we didn't like the second part of the day.
So spoiled.
And my mom would be like, oh, what am I? And I understand that now because I'm like, well, what am I paying for when you don't do this stuff? But I used to always like want to leave, but I never wanted to leave before cooking class because we would make
I should have guessed.
I think I still have the recipe book from it. We would make like sweet treats. I remember the lemon drop cookies, the elephant ears. Like these are the things that I cared about as a child. So I'd be like, where is the one? Emmy's doing a cooking camp this summer actually. Nice. But hers is like supposedly all cooking. But that was my favorite camp.
You just had 10 a.m. cake today, which like I don't understand how people eat celebratory cake at 10 a.m. But
well, if you got something to celebrate, you got something to celebrate.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways to celebrate. It doesn't have to be with cake, but
yeah. I mean, and then my daughter came out crying, the youngest one. I was like, what's wrong? Daddy said I can't have cake. I'm like, Domonique, like loosen up. It is like
no, it wasn't about the cake. It was about time to leave. Like you were
I was saying it's time to move towards a reception, to leave the playground and move up.
So you said it's time to leave. I'm wrapping this thing up.
Yeah. He takes like leave. He's like, yes, we get to leave. He takes that very seriously. But it's like there's a reception up these steps. We need to leave the little playground that everyone has stopped at.
Gotta be more clear.
Okay, but back to what you asked me. Did you have any fun camps? Did you ever do sleepaway? I don't think you ever did.
Nah, I never did sleepaway camp.
Do black people do sleepaway camp? Or did we in our generation?
I mean, maybe some people did, but I don't know anybody who ever did sleepaway camp. Oh, actually, I did. Well, that didn't count. And when I was in high school, I did football camps that were sleepaway, but they were like, hey, come out here. Yeah. And it was really just freaking work audition.
Oh my God.
That's what it was. I mean, it was fine.
In high school, you said?
I did Art Monk football camp. That was a sleepaway camp.
These are still football camps.
No, but this was when I was young, and it was a full pad camp.
God.
And the crazy thing about Art Monk football camp was they separated you by age,
without any understanding for size. So like when you play Pop Warner football, there's like an age restriction, but there's also a weight restriction. If you're too heavy, they make you play up. If you're too light, you can play down. And at this camp,
did you have to play down? I would have had to play up when I was a kid. Did you have to play down? He had to play down. He was a little guy.
Yeah, my final year of Pop Warner football, I had to play down.
Was it an advantage though? Where you I'm with these little kids, I'm balling. Like that freakonomic, like don't they say like it's better, especially in sports, to be older and like
I dominated no matter what.
Even
I was
if you
up
played
or
up.
down. We won a championship my second year when I was playing up, and then I played down, and then we went to the national championship and lost to the Winston-Salem Tiny Vikings.
And
those boys were monsters.
Never forget this.
Yeah, we went all the way to Disney World. Yeah, they beat the dog out of us. It was bad. It was bad from the opening kick. But yeah, so those are sleepaway camps I went to. And I worked at a sleepaway camp when I was 14, Camp Greentop, the camp in the mountains of Maryland for disabled children and adults. And that was like...
differently abled.
Yeah. Well, yeah, differently abled. At the time, it was fine to say disabled.
I just liked that. I like the way it sounds. But I don't know if you really have to say that.
My mom got me that job.
I think it's more true also.
I called her on the first night crying.
Did you sleep there too?
Yeah. It was...
So this man has been doing. I said to black people, I did not know this. My husband is
I was working.
Avery. Okay, well, it's a job.
Yeah, I was working, but I called her crying to come pick me up because they were disabled, like fully, differently abled, to the point where like I was giving grown men showers and wiping butts, and I had to set an alarm so that I could get up and flip. We had one camper who didn't have arms or legs, and then he laid on his side for too long. You get pressure sores. So, of course, I was the youngest person there, so I got all the literally jobs, like cleaning up when there were accidents.
But that had to have been, I can't imagine how I would survive that. That had to have been a great learning experience. And like,
No, I mean, I think I became a man that summer.
I think he means that in more ways than one at this sleepaway camp. When you were what age?
I was 14. There was a counselor there
so gross.
Yeah, I mean,
not that he was clean shit, that he quote unquote became a man that summer.
I was talking about the maturity of taking care of things, not the fact that there were some older counselors who thought your man was cute.
This man who was playing down in his little Pop Warner football team, these older counselors, but girls, go for it. Yeah, no, that's funny because like now Avery, whenever she wants to do sleepaway camps, a lot of her friends go to like, well, I go to this place where my father and grandfather used to go. They're like legacy sleepaway camp kids, and Avery's like, how come you didn't go? I'm like, because I was black. Like, and how come my grandparents didn't go? Because
they were slaves and sharecroppers. That's why.
Again, I'm one of the young parents. I'm not that old, but it's funny because I'm always like, because the black people I grew up around never did sleepaway camp, and so I'm like, is that true? Like, are there? I'm sure there are some great ones that are like, and if you know of any, but the thing is, I also don't want to go very far. Like, and so she did 1 week of sleepaway camp once, and she was probably too young for it. I guess she was like,
and one of her black friends wanted to do it with her.
Yeah, going into third. I mean, I guess coming out of third grade, or was that already when she was in COVID?
It was pre-COVID
year. I know, but it was a summer, I guess, before. But however old she was, it felt like the first age where, like maybe a year before that, other kids started doing sleepaway camp. But it was like, I was like, you know what? Okay. And it was in like near Charlottesville. So it was only like 2 hours away from, or Richmond, I don't know, about 2 hours away from our house here. So that felt like a safe distance where like if I had to get out there and get her, I could get her. So I got her hair braided, like just like cornrowed. But the rubber bands and everything all like came off, which I predicted. Like, and I was like, be careful, Avery, put the rubber. But she did not know how to do her hair. So I think that's like, one, it was hard for her being away for the first time. But two, and when I drove in, I remember thinking, yes, I see a couple black counselors. They can help Avery. No, and maybe there's some rule. You're not supposed to touch the kid's hair. There's whatever. But this poor child, and they send pictures. By day 3, her hair was like just out, entangled, and and I just was like, oh my god, we might have to cut it all off when she gets home. So I think that was half of why she hated sleepaway camp. And for a little girl, like when all these other little girls with straight hair are easily washing their hair every night, she wasn't good at washing her own hair, certainly couldn't detangle it like she was it was I think that was upsetting for her. But now she knows how to do her hair, and it's like, I want to go back. How come there's not one you went to that you want me to have your same childhood memories? I'm like, there are a lot of reasons, but But no, here's what Domonique's going to be doing all summer. So we've talked about how, or this summer, and this brings me back when you're talking about how you got whooped in your championship game. And earlier you talked about the team Declan's playing. He has a championship game tomorrow. So next year, as you guys have heard before, Domonique is coaching the football team, and he's been ordering like different tools on Amazon. I feel like you should try to get a sponsor for your team. Like no team has a sponsor, but at least just to send you all these little tennis balls and these ladders. So he's been ordering stuff to do like training exercises, like with the kids, the team, you know, I guess in August is when they'll start practicing. But yesterday, though, after the last day of school, if it were me, I would have come home and gotten in bed, or like, because annoyingly we couldn't go outside. Like back in the day, we would have gone for like a scooter ride to like a restaurant that they can get yummy food and I can get cocktails at to celebrate. But we couldn't do those things with the being smoky yesterday. So we're in the house. He has just our son doing ladder drills.
No, it's first Avery.
Okay, first Avery, then she quit on it real fast.
And then
it was our son for a while doing the ladder drills and doing these things where he's throwing tennis balls at them and like catching them in like one hand and tracking, laying on the ground and reaching up to catch tennis balls from the ground. For those of you who are into sports, these probably don't sound like crazy drills. But it's in our foyer, like of our house. And so I'm just looking, please don't break a vase. And I don't care, like whatever.
Yeah, you actually don't care.
Yeah, it's fine. But then, I mean, eventually it was all three of the kids. The final one was them doing planks and having to reach up and catch balls from the planks. And I tried each of these. I'm actually very good at the ladder.
You are.
And it's because I used to work out with a trainer a long time ago, Monty, and he used to, and I'm not coordinated, so I'm sure I wasn't good at the ladder before.
You were good.
But that I was good at. But like the reaching up from the planks, I got bad wrists, y'all. I got weak wrists to catch balls. That was challenging. But I'm like, you know what? Before people would always be like, and Domonique would say things like, oh my God, these kids better get scholarships to college. And I'd be like, whatever. Like scholarships are really hard to come by, like athletic scholarships. Like, and certainly merit scholarships are hard to come by too, but I'm like, no, like they're not going to get, that's really unlikely just because you did. We can't expect that they will too. But if they're training like this all summer, they better get good at something.
This won't happen all summer. And Avery just got a perfect score on her research project. So I think she's going to get an academic scholarship.
They're really not that available. I think they are.
I don't know. I mean, they need to give one to her because I said so.
She's so great.
The athletic scholarships. The thing that I realize is, you just gotta find the right sport. You gotta find the right sport, and like
pick a sport for each of our kids.
I've given them all enough athleticism you've watered it down a little bit.
They have me coming in too, guys.
I mean, which gives them some charisma and some good looks, which doesn't hurt either. Yeah.
But they can do that ladder though.
Avery's doing track for the first time, and so like I think that's her ticket.
Track, you think? I mean,
if there was an if there was an athletic path. Too bad we don't got mixed martial arts scholarships, because that's what Emmy would do.
Emmy's our 7-year-old girl, and she is a wild one.
Yeah, she's probably the strongest pound for pound of any of our kids. Like natural, she's like 4 years old doing push-ups for
fun.
Yeah,
like
for
on
fun.
vacations. And I feel like people would look at me like watching her do push-ups like by a beach, like literally in sand once. I'm like, that seems hard to do them in sand. But they probably look at me like I'm a psycho mom, like forcing my kid to do like punitive push-ups. But she just likes them. She loves them.
But then when she actually plays sports, she just kind of...
she's been getting better. She actually asked to do soccer camp this year.
That's crazy, because she does not like it. Well, she does recently, I guess, but I don't know.
Now that she's scoring, she's like, watch me work.
And Declan, it would be wrestling, I think, if we get him into wrestling, because like,
I know there was a wrestling camp, but he's not going back to his same school, and the camp was at his school, and I was like, you're done with that place. Plus, it was weeks that he had the football camp he wanted to go to, because he loves football.
He does.
So we're gonna pretend Domonique said it's football, because we want to pretend that his dreams are coming true.
Oh, sure. I mean, maybe
I'm joking.
I think the thing about Declan's football skills is the thing that he has that I think will make him good at football is
no fear.
Yeah, no fear. And he's like crazy aggressive, but
he plays flag football.
Yeah, but he plays flag football, and he's like above average as far as the athlete's concerned. But he's not like, oh my gosh,
and
this
he's
kid.
Tiny.
Yeah, I mean, he's not tiny. He's on the smaller end, but he's not tiny.
There's some like kids the second smallest on the team.
Yeah, but I mean, he stands out as one of the kids who is a better athlete. But I think that's why wrestling is. I think because he's a little smaller, his weight's a little bit lower, he's very strong, and he's aggressive. That's the thing that's really hard to find in a lot of kids. I remember when I was a kid, that was the difference in like the better athletes.
That Winston-Salem team, they came in aggressive.
Them boys was hungry. Oh God, they was all big. And, I'll never forget them.
Nightmares about this.
The tiny Vikings. They ran a trick play on the first on the opening kickoff, y'all. And it was like, why'd y'all do that? You didn't have to. You could score the regular way the rest of the time. Then we played in the consolation game against a team from California, and we lost in triple overtime, but we were better than them.
Yeah, he lost in triple overtime. Okay, and then our final, we mentioned it earlier, but yes, so Declan has his championship game in flag football. I think we told this story. You know what I realized? We've been doing this. I was looking for the picture from the first day of school. We've been doing this like since then, basically, since September. Jeez. But so, because I saw like in my saved pictures, a picture of us doing this then. But anyway, so I think we've told at some point in this time a story about how he plays in a flag league in DC. And unfortunately, even though DC isn't the chocolate city that it once was, there's still plenty of Black people in the city. But I would say there's only one all-Black team in the league typically. Yeah. Like a lot of the teams come from the suburbs, or we're in the city. But I think his team is probably like majority Black, but they're like majority Black kids who go to like private school.
Yeah, it's a whole different experience.
But there is a team that he's playing tomorrow, and the other team that reached the championship is like it's
much more like the team that I grew up on.
Yes, yes.
It's much more like that. I mean, and the parents are a lot more into it, and so last time they played
But Declan's spirit is more fitting to be over there.
The last time they played them, one of the moms had like a tiny megaphone, and she's playing songs from the megaphone and like yelling on the field.
And like the other
kids.
Parents aren't really cheering much.
And it's just like the other parents are kind of clapping, whatever. So like it stands out. And so Declan's team won, and Declan.
I was so glad I wasn't there. I was on FaceTime with him.
Yeah, and
the phone got thrown to the grass because
this wasn't the championship game. This was like a consolation game. Okay. No, but Declan teams won, and so Declan ran over, and the woman had put the megaphone down. Declan ran over and took the megaphone and started yelling the same thing she was yelling as they were like he was taunting.
I'm in the grass at this point, looking at blades of grass.
Because
really
I had to run over and get the megaphone from, and like she was fine. She was a good sport, and like the kids were all cool. But I'm like, Declan, stop. You are not a grown man. But he is really good at trash talk. Is that a sport?
He is
Can you
so
get a
good at
scholarship
trash talking. He is so so he went to
my coaching, man. It's gonna be an uphill battle.
It is. Like literally one of his questions was
my team will not allow that.
If like Declan just
responsible.
But he was like,
polite.
if Declan, because you know, like when it's your own parent, like Declan doesn't ever not listen to his coach, like that he currently has. But when Domonique's the coach, and Domonique said this, and I was like, no. I'm like, shit, that's definitely 100% going to happen. Dominique's like, so when I say like, Deck, you're out. It's time for someone else to go. And he just looks at me and stays on the line. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah,
you're going to have to tell the assistant coach to always tell him to come in and out. Because he listens to the other coaches. Just has no respect for you. But he is. And he goes to football camps a couple weeks each summer at a high school here. At the St. John's football camp. And he went for the first year last year. And last year he was like the youngest grade that could go. So you're working with older boys. So his trash talk game came back so much better after those weeks there. And I was like, shoot. And he was already really good at it. So he has that coming out as his first week of camp this summer. More hanging out with high schoolers.
Yeah. And we got to figure out how to mix in some academics all summer. Avery wants it though. Avery's I'm stepping up in math. I would like a math tutor this summer. Like, okay. Cool, go for it. And Declan's like, I ain't doing nothing all summer.
We're like, actually, buddy.
I was talking to somebody the other day about how different it is raising different kids. They need different things. Whereas like for much of the time I spent with Avery about school, it's about like, don't take it that seriously. It's not that important. And then I go over to the other room like, can you care a little bit? Like this is kind of important.
Yes. Like, and he's just like, it's not. Because again, his elementary school ends in 4th grade. So even though it's a weird year, they're in a year, and they had a 4th grade yearbook. And I was out of town with the girls when the yearbook stuff was due. And normally I like do all that stuff. So I told him, I was like, you need to send these things to this woman by this date. Because like the pictures, I was like, here's some pictures, tell him to choose. He needs 2 current ones. One of him's a baby. Here's like a bunch he can choose from these that I had pre-approved. Because if he would have chosen the craziest pictures, and of him making these weird faces. Like he only takes pictures making weird faces.
They had to answer questions.
Yes, they had to answer questions. And his answer to where would I be in 25 years? He loves to troll Domonique. What was it again?
He said, I will have a gut like my daddy, and I'll groan when I get up from the couch like my daddy.
Oh, no, but yeah, it sounded better than that. It was like, I'm going to have a a big belly and grunt every time I get up from the couch, just like my dad does now. Everybody else is like, one girl said I'm going to be madly in love, which was hilarious. He thought that was really funny. And I was like, and what is yours? And other kids were like, I'm going to be the CEO of this, like I will have finished college and been very successful. He's going to have a gut and grunt when he gets up from the couch. First of all, Domonique doesn't have a gut and he doesn't grunt when he gets up from the couch, but he loves to say that about him just to troll him.
I do a little grunting. We'll see. After this is over, please turn the recording off. I'll be getting up. Anyway,
I'm excited for summer. Yay, summer with the family. Woo!
Thank you. Love you. Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Do you need to do your thank yous to everybody?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Ashley, for being here. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Adi. And thank you, Podville.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.